Welcome to the Bar Podcast, John, Daniel.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for coming in today. We are very grateful. I'm going to set this down because I guess that's my job now. So there. But thank you for coming in. One of the, I think one of the fun things about the Bar Podcast is that it's pretty loose. It's pretty directive, I think, in why we do this, as we talked prior to the show. But we appreciate you guys coming in. As everybody knows, and I think is seen before in our past episodes anyways, we focus on mental health, and Building a Refuge is a nonprofit that Erik and I started, and Clark has now been a part of, and LDR Studios has been a part of now for the past year, which is crazy to think about that.
That's right.
We're excited to be in this new studio. This is pretty cool. We had a little bit of a different setup, right, Clark?
Yeah. We're changing it up a little bit.
Giving us a little bit new energy and a little bit new vibes here anyways. So we're pretty excited about having the more laid back scene anyways. But for those of you who listen, Building a Refuge is a men's mental health nonprofit. We focus on mental health, suicide awareness, suicide prevention, things like that. We're very excited to have you in today, man. We had an opportunity to talk a little bit about that topic last week at Harley-Davidson, just a little bit about what that is in the farming community and so on and so forth. But before we do, as we usually do, we want to learn a little bit more about you and Daniel, and tell us a little bit about your past, where you're at, a little bit how the punk rock farmer got going.
Yeah.
All that good detail.
Yeah. Well, where do you want me to start?
I would say maybe start, you're from Indiana, right, originally?
Absolutely.
All right. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Shelby County, and then we were like right on the edge of Shelby, Marion County.
Okay, right
Before
on.
Marion County became all of Indianapolis, I guess.
Right on.
My dad had a small like little truck farm.
Oh, nice.
So-
Okay. So farming's been in the family.
Yeah, my grandfather was a farmer, on my dad's side of the family, and I, spent many a summer there. But we actually got kind of a culture shock being, as my dad owned a trucking company. As it got bigger, we moved to the Geist area, and then eventually onto Geist Reservoir.
Oh, nice.
And I love I lost my dad in 2003,
Okay.
but he was the quintessential guy that shouldn't have lived on Geist Reservoir. It was like the Clampetts hit his trucking company did well because he was an incredibly smart man.
Yeah.
But, the bass boat that, he would fire up at 4:00 in the morning with a 250 horsepower engine on it, outboard, and hanging the deer from the back of the thing. It was kind of a culture shock for everybody else there. But what? The neighbors grew to love my dad.
Sometimes that's good, man, right?
Well, everybody needs a redneck in the neighborhood.
It's all right. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
I've been known to get in trouble for that kind of stuff at times, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So did you go to like high school in?
So yeah, I actually went to Heritage Christian.
Yeah, right on.
Luckily my dad made sure that we never lost our rural roots.
Yeah.
Keeping us, out hunting, fishing, and then I basically married the quintessential farmer's daughter.
Right on.
She grew up on a very large farm. Her dad is just like this amazing man. When I met him, the first time I met him, I was a little bit intimidated because he's like 6'5", 250 pounds, but the nicest, would never hurt a fly man you've ever met, but has forgotten more about farming than I'll ever know. And I remember that first year I was doing hay with him, and after we were done, and I'll never forget, I lifted weights in high school.
Yeah.
I've always prided myself on being decently strong. Even as a farmer, you have to be.
Yeah.
But I will never forget my father-in-law taking a bale of hay and throwing it, not to the
first rack,
but to the second one, and I'm just like watching it launch, and I was like, whoa. And, from I got a little bit of grain farm experience because my grandparents had a produce farm, which is not grain.
Yeah.
It's not row cropping. So I got and my dad had cattle. My grandparents had cattle. Now my father-in-law at one time had 1,000 head of cattle,
Nice. Yeah.
which was not, that's a different thing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's not 10 cows. It's,
Right,
you know,
right.
a giant organism of those animals. And
Yeah.
it was just very interesting being able to learn from him.
Yeah.
There's not an ag degree in the world that could teach me what my father-in-law taught
Right
me.
on. Yeah,
So,
that hands-on experience.
yeah, and from there, me and my wife talked, and we decided we were living in Fishers, and we were like, you know what? Let's make sure our boys are raised on the farm.
Yeah.
And that's when we purchased the farm we're at now.
When were you in Fishers? Like what years?
He was 7 when we moved, but we were actually operating a farm even prior to that. We bought some acreage and we're working the farm. 2014, is that when we left? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's interesting, you know, just getting to meet you, you know, John, and learning about you, man. I mean, Erik and I are both from Fishers, and I spent 24 years living in Fishers, and our kids, you know, they grew up there and stuff like that. And so I think we all know kind of I call it the bubble, right? I mean, people
you
call
guys,
it what it
do you
is.
know about the Fishers Ag Park?
Yeah.
So I designed that.
Nice.
Did you really?
Right
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
Me and the mayor of Fishers got along so well that our last meeting he had to have 2 police officers there because he's, in my opinion, he's a chicken shit. Am I allowed to say that?
You are allowed to say, well, listen, that's the one beautiful thing about the bar podcast. It's kind of like being in a bar. You don't have to be 21, Daniel, but you can be in the bar, right?
So from the design of that entire thing to the name Agri Park, I actually copyrighted that name. So the city of Fishers is technically not even supposed to be using it. So,
well, it is. I mean, when you think about it fundamentally, I mean, I think it's a really cool thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, any kind of urban farming is a great thing. And I think, you know, when I got to meet you, and for some of the guys, I'm going to bore you with this a little bit, and maybe the audience, I don't know, I hope not, but I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin. Now, for all my farming family in Wisconsin, I grew up there until I was 10 and then moved to the city, right? So they're like, yeah, you didn't grow up on a farm, man, you know, but I think when you do, and you just kind of understand what that community does for people. I think what the community is what farming community is. You know, I'm very blessed to understand that. I only had a glimpse of it when I was younger, and then through my teenage years, I was able to go back and, you know, hang out. And shout out to my cousin Bryce Peterson, who manages now and runs 3 farms, as I was talking to you about. Everything from, you know, cattle to corn, soybeans, you know, kind of the gamut, if you will. Has allowed my kids to be able to go back and experience what that's all about, right? Chasing chickens and riding turkeys and getting in trouble and dirty and shooting shit. And, you know, I mean, all that. I mean, if they don't know what that's all about, man, it's a different world. You know what I mean? It's just a completely different world.
Yeah. I mean, and farming is just like, I never want to like throw shade at like law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, every time like a police officer falls in the line of duty, it's a big deal, and they name a highway after him. So you like, look, there's very, very few things like named after veterans.
Yeah.
A veteran, you know, being killed in combat is a blurb on the news.
Yep.
A police officer being killed in the line of duty is a 3-day news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
A farmer who is just right under veterans when it comes to a combat veteran. I mean, we lose so many farmers every year, a lot more than police officers.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're number 4 on the dangerous jobs. Cops are like 23.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something.
And I mean, it's more dangerous to be a mailman.
Right.
But nobody, like, when they meet you and they're like, oh, you're a farmer. And you're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I would love to have pigs, and I would love to have cows. And I'm like, so, you know, cows like kill more people than most animals. Like a lot of guys die every year from cattle.
Yeah.
Hogs kill people. People are like thinking about Babe, and I'm like, no, there's a 500-pound boar that has twice the bite force of a Siberian tiger.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you don't think about that with a hog, but he can bite harder than one of them. So be careful.
Yeah. I
You
mean, but again, I mean, I think for the, the folks that don't understand that, man, I mean, they have that purview of, oh man, it's, it is babe. It's like, well, I want a hobby. They think of the hobby farm, right? I mean, that's kind of
Right.
what, people think about. I think about the farming, right? I mean, I could say the same thing, like, oh, I want to go farm, and I would love to, but shit.
So
I mean, get like, you just don't understand it.
Yeah. So when you talk about farming and you're like, hey, you talk to, again, we've hosted veterans on our farm, and
Yeah.
I feel like those are the guys that, as farmers, I feel like we can relate to the most versus police officers.
Yeah. I got
It's
you.
like, man, you're getting in your air-conditioned car and driving around.
Yeah.
These guys, like, and the veterans is like, as far as hiring veterans for farming,
Yeah.
they're like the best because they don't give a crap about like the environmental issues that you're facing. Hey, it's 90 degrees. Well, they're used to that.
Yeah, that's right.
They're used to, like, a farm is nothing, veterans are given difficult tasks. So as farmers, we have difficult tasks, and there's always an issue. There's always problems. There's always the weather not cooperating.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I was talking to a veteran, and we were talking about the accidents and the fatalities around farming. Even with veterans, it's not the same. When a veteran loses a team member, that's a brother in arms.
Oh, yeah.
If a farmer loses a team member, it's one of your kids.
Yeah.
Or it's your wife, or it's your brother.
Cousin, or
It's one of your family members, and you're there.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel's never had a close call because he's like probably the biggest safety freak on the farm.
That's all right. Yeah, man. It's good.
But like Elijah, he's been in the emergency room, 4 times?
Yeah.
I mean, he actually got knocked out cold from a piece of equipment, knocked him out. But had he been standing like a foot closer, he would have been decapitated.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And that's what that machine does. That machine is known for taking limbs or decapitation.
Right.
And it's just like, wow. And then people come at us and they're like, well, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
It needs to be safer. You need OSHA. You need this and that. And I'm going, okay, do you need to eat?
Yeah.
Because we can't abide by those rules or it's not getting done.
Right.
I mean, it's just not, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Every farm, you can tell a tractor that was owned by like a hobby farmer.
Yeah.
And then you can tell a tractor that was owned by an actual farmer. And I'm not saying that, I'm not throwing shade at
I got
hobby
you. Yeah.
farmers.
Yeah.
But like a production farmer, you look at the safety equipment on the tractor and it's all been disabled.
Yeah.
Because it's an issue. If I need to stand up to see where I'm putting a bale of hay,
Right.
I can't have the tractor shutting down.
Right,
so I
right.
disable that.
Right. Yeah.
We take the shields off of our PTOs because it's a pain in the ass to put the PTO on and take it off.
Yeah.
But the
time.
but if the PTO, that's the other thing, people are like, we hear farmers talk about PTOs. Well, PTOs kill people all the time.
What is a PTO?
Power takeoff, and it's actually a big bar. And there's a joke amongst farmers that if you go to hell, your whole time in hell is spent putting PTOs on and taking them off because
is that the truth, Daniel? That's there. Okay, yeah,
it's a spline that you have to line up because you're hooking it to a 300 horsepower diesel engine that's torqued. So it's a spline, you hook it up, and then you hook it up to the machine that's powered by it.
Yep.
And once that thing goes, if it grabs you, you're
in it.
I actually had one break my hand, and the tractor was off, and I was on a slight incline and didn't realize it, and I didn't put it in gear because I was in a hurry, and I was in the middle of trying to take it off, and the tractor rolled, and of course the PTO moved, and when it did, it just twisted my hand around and broke. So
I got to ask a quick question for you. I want to go back because I really do want to, as we were talking before, I want to definitely frame up some of the questions and just some of your personal experiences anyways with mental health and as we talked to Harley, losing some people. But so you have Daniel's here.
Yep.
2 other boys?
Yeah.
All right. And their names Elijah and
Gabriel.
Okay, and their ages?
So Gabriel's 22, Elijah's 21.
Right on. And they've all farmed. They've all been a part of the.
They've all, yeah. Elijah would be the. Gabriel is never coming back to the farm, I would guess, and that's fine.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Elijah is very much. He's more of a delegator.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. He can work hard, but it's he likes the idea of farming.
Yeah.
But he understands. I mean, he is 21 years old and he talks about other 21-year-olds like he's a 55-year-old man because he sees like he's like they don't understand what work is and this and that.
Yeah. And Daniel, I got to ask you, man. I mean, how do you look at it farming wise? I mean, as it relates from a lineage, right? Because you're a part of it every day. You do it and you're living it. And
well, I mean, it's like kind of it is what it is.
Yeah, I got you.
It's hard work, but
absolutely. Do you see it in your future?
A little bit further in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna take some time to kind of.
Yeah, right on.
Don't want to seem like cheesy, but see the world. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, man. I love asking these questions, man. I think it's fun because we all.
What's your favorite thing to do on the farm?
Equipment.
Okay.
Operate the equipment. Yeah.
Okay.
And work on the equipment.
Okay.
And how do you feel about farm animals? Be honest.
Yeah, you can be 100% honest, dude. Like you don't have to sugarcoat shit here.
It's I don't know. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely I guess I don't really know.
Can I tell him about your calves? He raised 3 calves that we got from an auction, and we didn't buy them. Well, Elijah bought the calves, and they were the sorriest calves you've ever seen in your life. I mean,
you got stuck with them?
And I looked at them, and I'm like, are they even alive right now? And they if you can name it, they had shipping fever. They were in bad shape. And Daniel actually said to me, he goes, they're not going to live in the barn. I'm going to bring them into the garage.
Okay.
And I'm going to take care of them in the garage. And I told him, you're going to lose all 3 of them. There's no way that they're going to make it. And 2 of them died, and he had to dispose of them. And when he took care of them, when he was burying them, he actually caught crypto.
Oh, you're shitting
crypto.
me.
What was it you caught? I forget.
It was like some parasite. I guess.
4 days.
No way.
He was it, and I mean, I remember a friend of ours that was a doctor. He came and Daniel went to him and he said, "Oh, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's just going to feel like he's dying for 4 days."
Oh, yeah, great. That's a great outlook, right?
But the one calf actually ended up becoming one of our best cows. He managed to save her.
That's cool.
Even when he was sick, he was out there taking care of her. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, that's awesome. It's a great learning experience, right? I mean, I'm sure in the midst of it, you didn't think so, but
yeah, it's definitely. I guess one of the things I take from it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Getting to see, what your hard work is.
Yeah. Do you ever get opportunities, man, to like talk to your friends or whatever, friends maybe that you've come across that like have no idea about farming, and you get to share with them a little bit?
I guess
your cousin that talks to you about Farm Simulator, and you're like,
yeah, I have a cousin who lives in Fishers. He's definitely he's pretty fun to talk to.
Yeah.
Especially like he was on the farm, and getting him to see what he sees in like the media or what's portrayed, and seeing actually how it works. And I guess my favorite thing was actually putting him to work.
Yeah.
And
what did he think? Like, what did he like after maybe like a day or whatever?
He did not like it.
Yeah, it's like this farming thing's not for me.
Yeah, man. Like it's a different deal.
Well, he's like a champion farmer on that Farm Simulator, and he showed it to me. And you back up and push a button, and the equipment connects. And I'm just like,
you bring up the PTO thing again.
It never breaks.
I'm just like, if there is something like that, I want to know what it is.
See, in the real world, PTO is paid time off. That's not what it's meaning on the farm, right?
No, definitely not.
It'd probably piss off, but I don't know what like the acronym in between would be. But
have you ever seen that Facebook meme where it shows like the hooker leaning over and saying, "For $50, you can do whatever you want"? and it's all, and I'd be like, do you know how to hook up a PTO? Because
Great.
we're getting ready to do bill prep.
Yeah,
we need 3 of them done.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, Jonathan, how many acres do y'all farm?
This year we only put about 40 into production. On average, we do 113. But it's very important that when we talk about that, so like your cousin farms 2,000.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
My father-in-law at his peak was farming 9,000. Produce production and grain production are 2 different things. They do not make machines that will go out and harvest our stuff. It's all hand-picked. With the exception of sweet corn and green beans, we have to, fresh market tomatoes are picked by hand.
Yeah.
Depending on your supplier, like if you have sweet corn, they don't care how much you have, but they don't want it machine picked. So they want it hand picked. Bell peppers, all that stuff. So the USDA considers 7 acres or more of produce very large scale.
And you have 40.
This year we did 40, but
gracious.
typically we do about 113.
And you were saying a minute ago, John, you were mentioning bell peppers. We were talking a little while ago. Tell everybody again, like how many bell peppers, like how big that, like the acres were and how many it would like essentially feed.
So technically we always shot for 1 million pounds off of our farm.
That's wild. Yeah.
So, and the thing is, you realize when you get like city folks to come, they don't understand what an acre is. They don't understand that it's 43,000 some square foot.
Yeah.
And they'll look at 3 acres of tomatoes, but that's 15,000 plants per acre. And they'll go, what is this, like 20 acres of tomatoes? No, it's only 3, because that's it. So we would shoot for, depending on what our production is, whether it was like watermelon, so we grow a lot of watermelon, we grow a lot of cantaloupes, and then bell peppers and tomatoes, and then we do some sweet corn, some green beans. We try to be as diversified as possible because I can guarantee one of the crops is going to fail.
Yeah.
Every season you can guarantee it.
And this year probably it was hard. I mean, we didn't have a lot of rain this year.
I have never had a year that didn't have an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's farming.
Yeah, that's farming, yeah.
As Will Rogers said, farmers are eternal optimists, or they wouldn't be farming.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you always have, now we use drip irrigation.
Okay.
So like our farm this year had 27 miles of drip irrigation in the ground.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you think about that, that's 27 miles of irrigation to.
Yeah. Where do you pull water for that? Do you pull it from a well?
We pull it from a dedicated well.
Okay.
For that, but some guys will pull from ponds. We have to be careful because we're GAP certified. So if we're not pulling from a tested well.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and we don't overhead water so that we meet sustainability requirements, as well as if you're pulling from a well and you're overhead watering, you're possibly spreading disease.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
I went to an urban farm where the lady was like, actually, she was taking chicken manure. I'll never forget this, and putting it in water. And then she said it was her fertilizer tea. I was like, oh, what are you doing with it? And she's like, well, I just spray all the crops and like foliar feed. And I was like, that's chicken shit. And I was like, that's E. coli, salmonella, you name it.
Yeah, it's flying everywhere.
Yeah, come on. And it's just, that's where we strive on education.
Yeah, that's cool.
So as far as the produce, where does that go? What does your farm do with it?
So we started concentrating on smaller food pantries.
Okay.
Simply because the bigger food banks, there are really good ones, and then there's ones that they take your stuff, it doesn't necessarily get distributed. So we concentrate on people that we know can use the product, and we got really like unique. We'd go to community centers. We would go to assisted living like retirement areas,
Yep.
Okay.
but they're low income.
Yeah.
So these people are on fixed income. And I don't know if you went to a farmer's market lately, but
Yep.
I don't
They've
know what they're
changed.
putting in the tomatoes, but to
Yeah.
charge what they're charging. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
Yeah.
those people can't afford that.
Yeah.
And good for them that they get those prices, but that takes some people out of the buying pool. And that's our point was that food should be affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something, that when we got into how we were going to distribute, we started partnering with local hospitals
Yeah.
because those people knew where the needs were.
Yeah.
We weren't trained to be social workers,
Yeah.
and because that was a whole nother, thing. We would rather go to the people who have already done the work, who can tell us where is this fresh produce and protein going to have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the way, how did you distribute it? Like what is the goal of your farm? Like what percentages of it are you giving away? What percentages are it? Because
Up until 2021, it was 100%.
100% of your produce you were giving away.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't want that to get lost.
No, yeah.
So 7.3 million pounds over the course of 5 years.
That's
that is
awesome, dude.
insane.
That's produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protein was about 180,000. And by protein, I mean animal flesh.
Yeah.
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 That's incredible.
So, John, as you kind of talk about this, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, and I think it's a good kind of segue to Erik's question, around providing food and all the different areas that you provide food to. There's a mental health aspect to this. We talked a little bit about that. Can you share a little bit of your insight and what you see that feeds into that?
Yeah. So this is anytime somebody comes to me about the hunger problem in the United States, and this is solely a United States problem. There is I've been to places where there's somebody is hungry.
Yeah.
In the United States, hunger is always a symptom of something else. It's never a root cause. I've never, in the, I think, 300,000 people we've served, we've never come across somebody that was truly starving to death.
Mm-hmm.
There's always another aspect, whether it's loss of job, addiction was a giant one.
Yeah.
A lot of mental health issues, and basically we decided we kind of changed the farm's mission to say, okay, we're instead of just here's food, good luck.
Yeah.
It's like, let's use the food as a bridge. Let's use the food as a gateway to, by the way, is there anything else we can help you with?
Right.
And instead of us trying to do that, we just started developing partnerships with as many people as we could. And by developing those partnerships, we could let those people who are experts in that aspect take over. Because as a farmer, I can do a lot of things, but I can't diagnose or tell somebody what to do.
Yeah, well, it's like a whole lot different than what we do at Building a Refuge. We tell people, it was interesting at Harley Davidson. I had a lady come up and she was like, "What's your guys' goal?" So I had to kind of take a step back a minute because we have a mission, right? One story at a time to create hope. But I told her, I said, "Look, if there's somebody that actually is thinking about wanting to talk to somebody, we hope we can get them first.
Yes.
To come here, because the environment that not only Clark, creates here at LDR, but what we can do at Harley Davidson and other places is just this environment that's not intimidating. It's not invasive. There's no expectation. And we're not, to your point, like you just said, we're not the clinical help. We can help people, direct them there. Right. But that's not what we do.
But, and that's the thing. They might come to us before they.
Right. Yeah.
That over there is big and scary.
Yeah, that's right.
But if they have somebody that walks them to it, that helps, and
you're the bartender.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the guy that they want to come to and talk to.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's less intimidating.
There's nothing about us that they see a big, F-350 pull up with a ton of food, a ton of produce in the back. you know, we're obviously not there to,
Right.
Right.
you know, do
But,
anything.
but
other
what
than,
that also does, though, I guarantee it sparks curiosity. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. People, they want to know, you know, even people that you would think had no interest whatsoever, they're genuinely curious about, number one, how do you grow this much?
Mm-hmm.
Or how does, I mean, us doing this has opened up, you know, being able to go into Indianapolis, into the inner city, and bring kids to our farm to where the teachers and their parents are comfortable with them coming to our farm to learn about it. And then that's when you kind of get like a panic attack when these kids ask you questions, because those kids have they're kids. They're going to ask the most honest questions.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh my gosh, nobody's telling you that food doesn't come from a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Watermelons. I mean, I had one kid say, I thought they grew in trees, because we learned in school fruit grows in trees, vegetables grow on the ground. I'm like, that is so inaccurate.
Yeah.
But you know, you know, and then you're able just to share how this country, its foundation is agriculture.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, without agriculture, and I mean, even we, you know, we would work with a lot of schools with black students, and the black students would come, and I remember this little girl, after we were done talking, she said she wanted to be a farmer, but she didn't know because she was black. And the first thing I said to her is, I was like, well, you've heard of George Washington Carver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's heard of him.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, let me give you a list of, like, number one, the modern day corn planter was invented by a black man. It wasn't invented by John Deere. Everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I don't think I knew that.
yeah,
I don't think I
John
knew.
Deere John Deere, no offense to John Deere, but
I got
they
you.
made sure that you didn't know that, you
Yeah.
know. The black farmers in the South, if you throw a rock, you're going to hit one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what these kids up here see.
Right.
And like the guy who showed me how to grow tomatoes to scale the way I do it using the Florida method was a black farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And where he was not unusual. But up here, I think I know all three black farmers in Indiana.
That's wild. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, one of them is a good friend, and I got him involved to go into the inner city, and he did it for like 2 weeks. He's like, I'm done dealing with those people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but the kids, he's like, yeah, well, the kids can come to my farm, but I'm done dealing with the adults.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, and that makes sense. But that was the kind of outreach we were able to pull off. And, you know, we suffered for it. We ended up taking a lot of black interns.
Yeah.
And there were some folks in my county that did not like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's real today, right? I mean, that's a real part. Yeah.
I remember that story. I was watching, because you were on with Mike Rowe, right?
Yeah.
On his show, and I was watching that, and I remember you telling that story about the KKK and
supposedly. I don't think they were the real deal.
Yeah.
They gave you some gruff, huh?
Well, we got an email from a guy that claimed he was KKK and Aryan Brotherhood, and the thing is, like, I talked to, like, at the time, our actual sheriff, and he's like, the Aryan Brotherhood doesn't send emails.
Yeah.
This is just somebody harassing you.
Okay.
You know?
I got you.
And
Yeah,
I was just like,
yeah.
He goes, if they were upset, they'd show up on your front porch.
Yeah.
But I work with Dr. Brandon Cosby, who is a really amazing guy. Our politics are like this. You know, my politics and his politics are as far.
Yeah.
But we are dear friends.
That's great.
And the thing is, we had a mutual kid that we were working with that, man, I don't know if he would scream racism every time a rock got turned over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he came and interned on my farm. And I remember a guy actually seen him working and stopped and got out of his truck. And I knew the guy. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get my ass kicked too. But I'm going to stand up for this dude.
Yeah.
He's going to kick I know this guy. I'm going to get, and he came right and got right in this kid's face.
Yeah.
And I told Brandon about it, how awful it was. And Brandon's like, no, that's awesome. He said, because he actually got to see racism face to face.
That's a good point, man.
He got to see the real thing. He got he goes, as Malcolm X said, he said he got to see the wolf bearing its teeth.
Yeah, that's
And he goes, and that's very important for him because he's not actually seen that before.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, but it makes me ashamed of my county. And he's like, who cares? It's not you. And,
yeah.
But yeah, that was a weird thing. And I told the dude, I was like, just leave. I was like, you need to leave and stuff. But he left, and we got a little.
Did you
bit
guys
more.
did you and him, the kid? Did you guys talk about that situation much after it?
Oh, he was ready to go back to India.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
He was scared.
Yeah,
scared.
Sure, he was. Yeah,
and,
rightfully so.
He didn't expect that. And I was like, well, just so you know, I said, there's like 8 deputies that I know personally that if they would have witnessed that, and if I,
they'd have been here.
They'd have been
right. They would have took care of it.
They would not have treated you the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I said, and here's the thing, for every one of those assholes, there's like 20 farmers out here that support what we do.
That's right. Yeah.
So just so you know, I mean, it's not what you think it is. And and I think that made him feel better, but we had to deal with that for a little bit.
Yeah. John, are you guys still doing that today? Do you still have interns that come in today?
So our focus has now like moved into a lot of education.
Yeah.
We sacrificed for 6 years.
Yeah.
Me and my wife didn't take a paycheck for 6 years.
Well, I remember hearing one of the interviews that I remember her sharing, your wife sharing, and you guys were pretty little because I remember seeing you all on there too. And, but yeah, I remember you sharing, like, you guys didn't have heat in your house for.
We did. That's, that's part of that was TV.
I got you. But I mean, when you grow up in a farmhouse, it's not like you just can flip the air conditioner. Because I can tell you this, like,
we had a furnace. We just chose not to run it because it was absolutely outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
And then I've got a stand of almost 18 acres of trees.
Yeah.
And I've got a bunch of dead ash. Why on earth would I pay a heating bill?
Yeah, you gotta love it. Yeah.
So, and that's when he got to like split wood with my.
So do you heat your house today with wood?
No, actually, we went to
Converted?
a mini split system. We're going to heat our house. Continue. I mean, I would give anything to be able to go completely off grid.
Yeah.
But we
take me with you.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to probably heat some this year with wood.
Yeah.
But the mini split, I tell people all the time, these things,
they work pretty well.
Our electric bill, whether it's heat or air conditioned, is like a fraction of what it was just running a standard front.
Awesome. I want to go back for a second before we move on from that intern thing. I think it's pretty interesting that whole, like, I get it that the whole thing was, bringing kids out to educate them, from the inner cities. What's the biggest thing that you took from that? Like what did you learn?
So our farm program is where I had multiple experiences with that. It was almost surreal because.
And what is the FARM acronym?
FARM is Felons, Addicts, Recovery Mentorship.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would take people, a judge might recommend somebody.
Okay.
Or somebody comes through and says that we could do this. We that is nothing but a series of highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
So a judge recommended a kid who kept getting in trouble for fighting. He was always fighting. He even tried to fight the cops when they arrested him. And so we had this boar, just a hog. He was 500 pounds, and his name was Pork Pie. Daniel actually raised him.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing was a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, he really he wasn't a mean animal, but he looked like a razorback. He was a mixture of a guinea hog and something else. So he had the big long snout and the tusks coming out.
Did he taste like bacon though?
he tasted amazing. Once
Yeah. Here
we,
comes Clark with the BLT question.
we actually had we had that whole thing. We had it made all into bratwurst, and it was amazing. So, but when he lived an amazing life on our farm for 7 years.
Yeah.
But when this kid came, he always was walking around with like a chip on his shoulder and this and that. And finally I was like, okay. I mean, he got mouthy with me a couple times. I'm like, dude, I'm like 40 at the time, or I was like 43 at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, I am a farmer. So you probably don't understand that, your greenfield football training is a little bit different than farm training. And I'm too old, so if I have to do anything, I'm swinging for the fence the first time. It's not going to be good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, your job for the next 2 weeks is to take care of him. And I actually brought him into the pen. And of course, when you go in, he wants to be fed. And he's happy to see you. But what he looks like happy is terrifying to somebody that doesn't understand what he is.
Yeah.
And he's seeing them, and he just and I said, so you see this hog? I said, you have a problem with respect. You don't give anybody respect. That's why you're in your situation.
Yeah.
I said, disrespect this hog one time, and short of me having to shoot it with a high-powered rifle, he'll kill you before I can help.
Yeah.
He will not hesitate to hurt you.
Right.
So make sure the only way you can work around this animal is with respect. You show him the respect and you'll be fine. You don't show him respect and he's going to teach you what respect is. And so the funny thing is, we always would have chickens die. Chickens die. I mean, that's just part of it. And we had one die that morning, and I took that because he'd eat a chicken. But this hog was so massive. I mean, he was so big. I took the chicken and I held it up, and he reached up and boom, 2 bites, and the whole chicken was down his throat. And this kid's like this,
man.
It's
great.
And he's just like, I said, so good luck. And I got out of the pin because I knew he wouldn't really do anything to the kid. And then I had other kids where, we had a bull named Lord Zeus. He was 2,100 pounds.
Jeez.
He was, where I would explain to now don't be screwing around. See the fence? That's a suggestion. That is not saying he won't come through it.
Yeah.
They get around those animals and they're just like, oh, okay. I understand. And, just a side note about, King Zeus, our bull, he was he Lord Zeus or King Zeus? What was his paper name? He was a champion bull, belted Galloway. So he was black, white in the middle, and then black.
Oh,
on his
yeah,
head.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and he had a big buffalo head. And we had a group of homeless, so kids that were homeless, meaning their parents were homeless. I think it's called Day Spring. It's a camp that every summer, and they host these kids. Well, they'd always bring them to our farm.
Okay.
And we brought these kids to the farm, and they wanted to see, the cows and stuff. Well, Zeus was always kind of hard to get towards the fence, but that day, it was like an act of God. Zeus, and it's kind of a cool morning, he starts from one end, and all the kids are on the fence, and he walks, and he stops like right in the middle, turns and looks at him, and snorts, and all the steam comes out of his nose.
That's
and then he
awesome.
kept walking, and a kid looked at me and goes, "That's what a dinosaur would look like." And I was like,
awesome.
"That's all I needed to do to get through to these kids. We made a difference." For them.
That's awesome.
So yeah, going back to we had one guy that actually we promoted to farm manager. He had a fentanyl problem. We helped him get clean. He went through that. He worked for us for 2 years. He was in a pretty bitter custody battle with his ex-wife. And one day he didn't show up at the farm. And I was just like, what the heck? And called and called and called. And finally, 3 days later, his dad called me and said that they found him. He had went back to fentanyl. And I guess what he did was he had shot up the same amount he always had before. And it killed him. And I mean, that was so, I remember going to some of my mentors and saying, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, hey, when you work with people like this is typical outcome. This is who you usually lose. He goes, if you win for one, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And you know, from there we had one kid who had gotten some misdemeanors, but came to work at the farm and said that he was like gotten into trouble, grew up dirt poor, white trash kid. That's I mean,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know what a white trash kid would look like, it was this kid. And I say that because typically they're so misjudged.
Yeah.
And you don't really understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
No dad. He you know, his dad's long gone. His mom was an alcoholic, but he wanted to be in his little town in Knightstown. He wanted to be a Knightstown police officer. And he had so many run-ins with the Knightstown police. I mean, that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
He worked for us for 2 years. And he said, I'm going to apply to the Henry County Sheriff's Department. And he says, is there anything that you could do to help me? I said, well, I know him. I'm going to write him a letter for you. I write him a letter. And then 6 months later, he's like, I'm in Plainfield training.
Oh, that's great.
He is now on IMPD.
That's great, man.
So,
yeah.
You know, he did.
Super.
And let me tell you something. When you look at the reputation of police officers today, this is the guy you want being a police officer.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's going to be empathetic. He's going to
sees the big picture.
Yeah. He's going to understand that today might not be your best day. And he has a servant's heart, and that's who should be working as a police officer. We had one that did really well, went on to be a farm manager at a big hops farm. You know, and then we had some. I mean, we had one kid that was living on the farm that my middle son had to wrestle to the ground because he decided he was going to just start lashing out at everybody, physically, and so we ceased like having kids at the farm then.
Yeah.
And then my wife, through our grocery store program, actually decided to start hiring the people that she interacted with on the streets there. And two former prostitutes that she put into a halfway house. The Brookside Church actually helped one of them.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because I didn't, being, you know, from Hancock County, I didn't like realize that there were still pimps, like actual, you know. And my wife, he kept harassing her. And my wife actually went outside on 10th Street.
I know your grocery store is at. I know.
Got right in his face, pointing it, and let him know, by the way, you think that gun that you carry around sometimes is good? My gun's better. And I
loaded every day.
I saw him, and I was like, I'm telling you right now, she's not what you think. You threaten her or that girl that she's kind of taken under her wing, she will shoot you and then explain why she shot you. You know,
John, so. It's I just, when I sit here and listen to this, man, I mean, you know, you all give so many people hope. Daniel, you give people hope.
Absolutely.
And your family does. I'm sure you guys hear this a lot, but it's so refreshing. You know, that's our mission here, you know, that we say one story at a time creates hope. You're sharing this story creates hope. And it's awesome to be able to do this. Erik and I have said this many times. You get humbled when we've stepped into this arena. You know, we stepped into this arena, as we said at the beginning of the show, because we deal with mental health and we deal with suicide, right?
Right.
And you and I mean, I lost my brother in 2015, and only by Christ. I mean, we don't shy around it. We tell people here on this show, hey, look, we'll never throw it at you, but it's the only reason why Erik and I have got reconnected and we're doing this. And I just appreciate what you guys do. I want you all to know that from the bottom of my heart, because it helps me heal, even in what I go through day in and day out, thinking about my brother and thinking about the many people that, you know, we lose to suicide every day. Veterans. I mean, we have some friends in the audience here that are vets, and we're grateful for you guys, right? It's one of the big things I think through building a refuge that we've gotten a lot of humbleness, and I don't want to say gratification, but I think it makes us feel like we're doing something right for a community through one of our connections that help veterans. And it's just, I love hearing what you guys do, man. I mean, it's super. I want to talk a little bit about this because I know when you shared with me, you've lost some close friends to suicide. You've lost a family member. Suicide in farming is, the statistics are really unbelievable.
It's outrageous, specifically dairy farmers.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
so.
And that's where that's where my family, my grandparents, on my dad's side, like I was telling you, my cousin still farms that farm today. My grandparents on my mom's side dairy farmed for 60 years, both of them. Now they didn't have big farms. They were farming anywhere on the low end of 25 head of dairy farm cattle, milking cows to maybe 35 at a high point. Right. And that's what I grew up learning about farming, man, waking up at 5 o'clock. I was telling you the story. Like, it was just so much fun with my cousins, to get up in the morning and get out and get the cow's milk before my grandpa got up. You know what I mean? It was big. That was big stuff to us as kids. But what I didn't understand then, because we had some people in the community that are still really good friends of ours today, because I mean, a farming community is a small community. I grew up in a town of 600 people, right? And it doesn't expand too far. I mean, there's other little communities, pocket communities that size. But back when I was a kid, I remember hearing some of, like, hey, this guy took his life, or, this, and I just didn't really think a lot about it, right? I mean, because I didn't understand things. But I think today, so I would love to get your point of view on this, man, and how you see this, because you live it, breathe it every day.
Right.
And you and I had a really great conversation around this.
And that's the hardest part. Probably a lot like veterans, farmers. Sometimes there's no warning.
That's right.
Like one friend of mine, it's almost been 7 years. He was my fertilizer salesman as well.
Yeah.
I had just had lunch with him. It was like awesome. No big deal. And then we hear, he called 911 and like, this is where I'm at. Boom. And it was it. And I was just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Why there was
so shocking.
And then, my own brother-in-law, his uncle, who he had his struggles, but we never for a second thought they were that. But we do know that, just there was no expectation of him, but you would have to have known him to know that it wouldn't have mattered. He actually worked as my farm manager, like an actual employee, part of the family farm. Was amazing, but he took on things that you didn't even know he was taking on, and he took everything very personal and very wanted to be prideful of how he was prideful in a good way of like what he did. Yeah. And when it happened, it just came out of the blue. It was just like, man, what if he would have maybe called us first, or
right.
anything like that. And people don't understand that if they don't farm, they don't understand that, like we always say, what is a farm really fertilized? With blood, sweat, and tears. Mm-hmm. That's what makes your farm. And, it's very few people have a profession that is as old as agriculture. Right. And as the world evolves, and that's what I think. I mean, I'm seeing things. I watch dairies dairies are being grabbed up by larger corporations, and I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just don't know. I think there should be a happy medium to where if a big corporation wants to be the main supplier of milk, that they still utilize the local dairies. Absolutely. Instead of building these mega dairies.
I mean, I can tell you in Wisconsin, every town that, like Coon Valley, Wisconsin was where I'm from. Right. It had a dairy, right? It had a milk house, what have you, where, and shit, I remember back in the day when, it was still in milk cans, right? My grandparents would put them in milk cans. They had a cellar that had a fresh spring in it that you would drop milk cans in. Every town had a dairy in it,
Right.
and those are really not relevant. I mean, there's some local ones that are a little bit bigger, but that just feeds a bigger system.
And that's the thing. I mean, as farmers, we look at the world around us and we see what the world is now saying.
Yeah.
So like a dairy farmer does not get vacation.
Right.
I mean, if they do, it's a chore to get somebody to come in, and because you're
it's not like you're just coming in and flushing the toilets.
Yeah, you're milking twice a day.
Yeah.
If you have a large calf operation,
Yep.
You need somebody to come in and feed those cattle. I mean, I have a friend who has probably close to 150 head in what's known as a calf feeder barn. His dad started it. He does not have a contract with anybody. He sells his beef where he's going to get the best price.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes very good care of his cattle.
Yeah.
They're in a barn. They have every need they could possibly need met. Their cortisol levels, if you tested them, are lower than a cow that's out on a pasture.
Yeah.
Despite what the latest documentary has said.
Yeah, yeah.
And instead of somebody saying, "Hey, thanks for feeding me," he has to hear, "Well, you're just a factory farm."
Yeah.
That's a family farm.
Yeah.
That he has put his everything on the line to make that work. We constantly joke that, farmers, we're the only ones that, we have to sell everything wholesale.
Yeah.
We have to buy it at retail. We have to pay shipping both ways. Meanwhile, the entire population thinks we're trying to poison them.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's just one aspect of it, right? I mean, then you think about, the financial aspect of it, right? And what you have to do just to make ends meet, know. And,
I mean, have you priced a combine, a new
it's
John Deere or Case or,
Well, share. I mean, what's a new one going to run?
I saw one with 765,000.
Yeah.
It's
nuts.
Jiminy Christmas.
Like with us, I mean, our field tractor that we kind of used all around, that's $128,000 piece of equipment.
Right.
And when a tire
and you're not only the
you're
operator,
breaking it all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
fixing
you're
it.
not only the operator, you're the mechanic. You're all of that.
You're wrenching on it every day, basically.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, people don't understand that. Like for what we do, we're specialized operation, but we're no different than the other farmers for whatever they have. Like we have 12-foot rototiller.
Mm-hmm.
People that think about what a rototiller is, they're thinking about that thing they push in the garden. I'm talking about a 12-foot wide rototiller that goes on the back of a tractor.
Yeah,
that would tear up.
That you have to hook up to a PTO.
Yeah,
right.
You have a giant PTO on that one, and if it breaks. That's our key to being able to prep fields, and if it breaks, the part's in Italy.
Yeah.
So we have two choices. We can try to
retrofit,
make the part ourselves. Yeah. I mean, we have a whole section on our farm that it's the graveyard.
Parts.
It's there. It's broke beyond fixing. Stick it here, and we will. I mean, we had a Buckeye mulch layer, which if you guys understand that, like if you've seen the produce farms that run plastic and you plant into the plastic, that's what we do.
Okay.
So this Buckeye mulch layer, I paid top dollar for it in like 2004, 2005. I think there's 3 pieces of it left that are on all other mulch layers and on other pieces of equipment now because that's what we had to do because it was a pain to get parts for it and this and that.
Daniel, I got a question
for farmers that they don't.
They don't. As you share these stories, you know what I mean, Daniel, I got a quick question for you. So you obviously hang out with your buddies and stuff like that. I mean, do you guys ever have conversations? Like, do you ever talk about mental health and like at your ages and like what other kids might be going through on farms, being raised on farms? I mean, being a part of the community. Do you guys ever have discussion around that, or what's your take on it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not as common. We definitely talk about that.
I mean, is it any different than I think what like your dad goes through, or like anybody else as a parent running a farm, right? I mean, are the stresses and the mental challenges any drastically different? I mean, because y'all are doing the same stuff. I mean, you're younger, right? But you're still farming. You're still seeing everything going on.
Yeah, I guess it's different because we're younger, but
Yeah.
I guess with the same challenges, relatively the same thing.
Do you think the stigma has, like the weight of the stigma has kind of made progress in terms of like somebody sharing a story? Like if you have a buddy or whatever, like, hey man, I'm dealing with some shit right now or whatever. And do you see that as getting like better today?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Let's hope. I like to hear that.
I guess we learned to be able to talk about it more, especially with each other.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
That's encouraging for sure.
It is really encouraging. And
yeah, because I mean, that's when you get down to it, it's, and a lot of people didn't know that. I knew that, unfortunately, because I've done a lot of research in regards to, suicide rates in different verticals, different careers, and construction and farming is right up there on top, and I'm in construction. And so what the reason he's asking that kind of a question to you is that what we have found out quite a bit is that our age group, your dad's age group, Brandon, myself, and Clark, we didn't talk about it.
That's right.
It went it just didn't. We just didn't talk about it. And so what we've seen is, because my son's the exact same age as you are, is they're so much more open to it, to even having the conversation. And so when we're talking about farmers and your dad's talking about friends of his that have he's lost. The main reason is because it just went untalked about. Yeah. And people didn't discuss it. And there's other things involved in it. There could be alcohol, there could be drugs, there could be financial stuff, whatever it is. But the main reason is because they wouldn't let anybody know about it. Yeah. And that's why you said the thing that you said is, nobody knew.
Well, and then you, like our parents, I mean, you think about how, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember like my first Misfits album, I think I was 17, or that's not my first one, but I was showing it to my dad.
Yeah.
And, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but all the guys in the Misfits are ripped.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey dad, because he thought punk music was stupid, and I'd say, would you say that to his face? And I remember, I don't know which one it was, but he had like eyeshadow on underneath, and he goes, he's wearing makeup.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely say it to his face.
Right.
I mean, that was just his generation,
Yeah.
That's just how they were. But,
but it's probably not a lot different. You think about like, music today, right? I mean, I don't know what you like, Daniel, music, but I mean, we might look at somebody that, you'd be like, what in the hell is that?
Yeah. I mean, my middle son's always coming to me and going, this guy is the new. They're saying, oh, who is the guy, the machine gun guy?
Machine Gun Kelly.
Machine Gun Kelly. My son's like, listen to this. This is, he is like, what is punk? And I'm like, no.
Did you listen to it a little bit though?
I did listen to it, and I was just like, no way.
No way. So, No, I think it is. I mean, Erik brings up a good point. It's super encouraging, because I think that, I was just sitting here thinking about like, the farming community. If you get like 10 real farmers, like I always joke, and my cousin will laugh at this, man, but my cousin's hands, dude, like if I put my hand up to his fingers look like bratwurst. They're just big, thick, and he's a big dude. He's been farming his whole life. But if you put 10 of those guys in a room and you want to go in and say, hey man, I'm not feeling really great today, I don't know what that would be like.
You're not going to get.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you might and you may not. You know what I mean? It just depends, I suppose, on how the community's been impacted by it or not. But it's intimidating, I guess, is my point.
Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about. Yeah.
Does the day of, because when I was growing up, my grandparents lived up in North Manchester.
Okay.
And so outside of North Manchester, that little town was a big farming community. Every time we'd go up there and visit them, they'd take us to a donut shop.
Okay. Yeah.
And in the corner of that donut shop was 10 farmers who had just gotten done basically with a full day of work before I went and got a donut.
Right.
And does that still exist?
It does. It's at the co-op. It's, it might be, every town kind of has their their little place for that. I've gotten really in deep with I became very close with some members of the Amish community, and now I've gotten to go and be in those circles.
Yeah.
And here you have the Amish community where suicide is a thing.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
That's the one community you think might be insulated against it, but it's not. And but we have that where and the older farmers, the joke is like, how can you tell I'm a farmer under 50? I have all my fingers because they're able to be sewed back on. And
it's crazy.
And I do. I mean, I have one that had to be sewed back on, but the stigma of wanting to talk about it, especially if you get enough guys that understand what they're already going through.
Yeah.
They understand that, do I have enough money to make it to the end of the season to where I'm going to get paid again? Do if this piece of equipment breaks one more time, I mean, people are like, oh, my car broke down, I'll go get another one. You just can't go get another tractor. No, most farmers can't. That stuff lays heavy on them, and their entire life, farming is not an occupation, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And their entire life is wrapped up in that farm. And if it continues to just get worse and worse and worse, the mental health that weight just gets to to them.
John,
really
what would you say to somebody that what would you say just to a general audience, I guess, that is a we ask a lot of times guests come on, but what would you say to somebody like, hey, we say just talk to somebody, like, what, I mean, it's probably not a lot different, right? But I mean, what would you say to someone that may be in that position as a farmer, as having this experience, as living it? You talked about sacrifice, you talked about these, different things that you've experienced, but what would you say to somebody like, hey man, this is a good first step?
Yeah, well, as far as like if they were going through something.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd remind them that they have a community of farmers that are willing to step up and help.
Yep.
They might not even know who's willing to step up and help, I mean, I can show you time and time again where, I mean, I remember there was a farmer in Iowa they got him help because his dad had been diagnosed with cancer. He was the only one. So they got him help, and he agreed to go there. And I don't know, I think 20 guys showed up with combines and their equipment and harvested everything that he needed harvested. They didn't have to. That was one thing that he didn't have to worry about. And, that cost those guys diesel fuel. That cost those guys their time because they had their own farms to harvest, but they understood that was more important. And, I would just remind them that there is a community, that there's always a next season. That's the one thing that as a farmer that you have is there's always next season. My father-in-law, I remember I was down one time and my father-in-law, he was like, well, just remember, you can learn from your mistakes from this season and try again next year.
Yeah.
That's what you get every time with a farmer until your last season, until it's time to have somebody else close the gate for you.
Yeah.
But, you have that until that happens. So.
Yeah, I love that insight, John. I really do. And like I said, I mean, I think not only for what we're trying to do here at Building a Refuge, but it's probably personal to me, man. I love my cousins. I love what they do. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have this in me, you know what I mean? And understanding the little bit of this if I didn't have an opportunity to grow up on a farm, you know what I mean?
Right.
And do these things. And
and there's so many direct parallels to what we're doing and what you're doing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it literally is right on track with what we're doing or trying to do. And one of the things that you talked about in that video with Mike Rowe was your faith,
right,
and how that plays into all this. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I went to a Christian school. In college, I became an atheist.
Okay.
Science class. I was taking a lot of science stuff. Zoology major. I was like, oh, I mean. But as everybody knows him from Breaking Bad.
Cranston?
Well, but the
Oh,
character
yeah.
he played,
Yeah.
what was his name? His
Not Harry,
like
what the hell?
street name.
Yeah.
Everybody knew him as the scientist.
Yeah.
What was it?
Heisenberg.
Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Heisenberg.
So the actual Heisenberg that won the Nobel Peace Prize in chemistry said that the first gulp of the natural sciences will turn you into a devout atheist. But don't worry, God's waiting for you at the bottom of the glass. So, and that's kind of what happened with me. And then becoming a farmer, I've never been comfortable, I feel like, American Christianity, the Republican Jesus, so to speak. And I'm like a minarchist, so I don't like apply to any party.
Yeah.
What are we?
Well, that's not, like I have guns.
Yeah.
I mean, I have guns and I have the scary black guns, the
Yeah.
black rifle.
Mhm.
A friend of mine had a Bible verse etched on his rifle, and I was like, that's not how you spread the gospel, dude. I mean, that's kind of weird. I just got completely like disenfranchised with American Christianity. And I was just like, way back in the day, there were people that wore bracelets that said, what would Jesus do? And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to identify as a Christian. I'm just a dude following a Jewish carpenter.
Right on, brother.
And,
I love that.
And so when we did our farm, we decided to call it Project 2322. And that's from Leviticus 23:22, where it says, do not reap to the very edges of your field. Do not pick up, your clippings, but leave them for the poor, the widow, and the stranger among you. And that really spoke to me to say, that's what we need to be doing. I'm all for, there's like, especially politically right now, like I just get so sick of the politics. And like on the farm, I can relate to people better and like show them the works of God. I can. And people are like, well, you're like the punk rock farmer. You should be like an atheist or a Satanist.
Should be angry.
Yeah, I should be angry. And I'm just like, I'm just going to kind of follow my own thing, try to do, what, like Halloween. I love Halloween. I went to a school that was like, Halloween is Satan's birthday. And I'm like, well, so I mean, I did having the platform that I do on social media, I can piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
Get a bunch of people going.
Sometimes honesty stings.
Well, I mean, this person's like, Halloween is a pagan holiday and you shouldn't celebrate it. I said, so's Christmas, so's Easter. Easter is literally named after a pagan goddess. We just barely changed her name. I said, so stop being a hypocrite and let the kids get candy. I mean, I never once growing up
Fill up the Easter eggs. Yeah,
I never once thought, I'm going out in the name of Satan. I'm going out to get as many Twix bars as I can possibly get. I'm going to see what I can trade my brother with,
I see Mike back there.
That's just how I felt. And that's, doing this work that we've done, it's just like, I've seen the face of God in so many people. And it's just like, whoa, how many people do I see somebody hands them like my church? I mean, I get so frustrated with my church because they'd be like, and last year we sent $5.5 million to Haiti. And I'm like, oh, good. Haiti's GDP relies on American Christianity to give them charity. Meanwhile, that money's funneled and done with whatever with it. But yet 5 miles away, or even 27 miles away, or 2 blocks down the street, what are they doing for the people in their community? What are they doing? I mean, there were homeless people in Greenfield. There's not a bunch of them, not like Indianapolis, but they were there.
Yep.
Do you know what $5 million would do to a homeless population in a town the size of Greenfield? Do you know how many people we could put into mental health facilities?
Right.
And I'm just sitting there watching it and going, why do we need to go to Haiti? You know, I mean, why does the church continue to concentrate on the stupid stuff, partake in the divisiveness that's in this country, big time, instead of just saying, because for me, I don't care what anybody looked like, what they identified as. They had a need. I had the ability to meet it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I had to do. And that's it. And I mean, being able to have friends and people that I worked with that came from different faiths or no faith at all, and have honest conversations with them and say, man, we're different on all these things, but this is where we align.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So together, we're going to work together to try to help meet a need.
There's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah. John,
sure.
I mean, we'd sit here and talk for hours on end, man. I love every aspect of your vision and what, you know, you bring to the table and your experience, and you just have a lot of life-led experiences, man. And we're grateful for you. Daniel, thank you for coming in today, man. I really appreciate you coming with your dad and hanging out with us. And, you know, we hope that you walk away with, you know, a little bit of something out of this today too, to realize that, you know, we're not far off base from what you all are doing. We do it in a little bit of a different manner, but if we can touch somebody, we can reach somebody, man. That's what we want to do.
What's cool from here, like I'm looking at here and I'm asking Daniel questions and stuff like that. I'm watching his dad look at him.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. You guys get to hang out and enjoy those times together in the farm.
I just wish you wouldn't talk as much as
That's all right, man. It's okay. That's all right. You got plenty of time to talk, man. So, but what you have said today, I want you to know, man, we appreciate it, because it gives us a lot of encouragement to hear that you're talking with your friends, and you're a leader, man. You may not realize it right now, dude, but you're a leader amongst your friends, just in what you guys do and what you're learning from it, man. And I believe that in my heart. So
for sure,
as we wrap up shows, man, there will be some support avenues and resources that we like to share. So as this kind of wraps up, we hope that people, if there's anybody out there that need it, there's a national line. We have a local line here that people can reach out to too. John, thank you so much, man.
Hey, thanks for
what you do, and thank you guys for everything you guys do, and we'd love to have you back sometime to talk more. I mean, we have a whole year. As you said, we have another season.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you very much again, man.
Thanks.
That's a wrap.
Clear, everybody.
I am the way, I am the light, you know I am. Now I found a refuge, someone I can talk to. All hope has been restored. This is my refuge, something to hold on to. It is well within my soul. Jesus built me a refuge, someplace I can run to, a place we now call home.